Welcome back, South Philly Sauce, an Audacy original brought to you by 94 WIP and Jack Daniels. Al Morganti, Ashlyn, Sullivan here with you, wrapping up a day at the Flyers training facility. We just watched practice as this team gets ready for a big back-to-back against the Washington Capitals. A lot going on, coming off a very disappointing home opener and a somewhat disappointing road trip. The Flyers as a whole, they have a lot to fix. We got some good news about some injuries, but as a whole, Al, this is a really big week to clear up the doubts about this team.
It's a really big week, Ashlyn, and it's also because they had a day off yesterday. Mm-hmm. So you should be able to hit the ice, what should have been like a home opener, with some energy coming in, because that was disappointing. Yeah. It was just a dead home opener for all the expectations coming in. So now they've had a complete day off, come in, practice today, a little later too, because Caps were here before. So I mean, this should be there's no excuses here. Not that you wanted to use that excuse, but all that travel, everything, was kind of expected. And this one, there's no excuses.
Yeah, I mean, it was really clear how much they were hurting, just energy level wise, in that home opener, where we were talking to, for example, Boosh in our pregame show. He said he was hurt and he was tired. And John Torella with a great quote in his press conference, just being honest, that he said, when you don't have a lot of respect in the NHL, this is what you get. This is the schedule that you get, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, which is sort of why I was ranting and raving about this since like August.
You really were. Yeah, like, you saw this coming.
I'm like, this is a joke. Yeah. Sending a team this way, that way, to come out and have this home opener. And I'm like, all right, we'll see what happens. Maybe because they've had good starts before. Maybe, just will your way through it. But I looked at it and said, oh, man, this is going to be something.
It really is.
And it turned into nothing.
Yeah. And I think the big thing coming off that home opener, a lot of people confused of what we're seeing on the ice. These lines, they're definitely a little mismatched at the moment. And they were mismatched again at practice. What we saw on Saturday is not what we just saw here on Monday. So now you're wondering what this is going to look like. But I think what's going to clear a lot of things up is we just heard from Nick Seeler in the locker room. He's told us that he is going to play on Tuesday. He's feeling a lot better from that nerve injury. That's at least going to fix the defensive pairings and the instability we've seen there.
Yeah, Seal is a big difference with Drysdale. I mean, it's funny, like I'm so old. His injury when I was covering, back in the day, was just simply called drop foot. And I'm like, oh, that sounds terrible. But now that's all technical, whatever, nerve, this, that, the other thing. But it takes a while. And it's a frightening thing when you have it. You just can't feel
your foot.
What's going to happen?
Like hockey.
Yeah. How do you walk? Like, my God. So that should really stabilize the defense. So that he's a big difference maker. We've seen this before when Progrov lost his partner previously in a previous regime here. It happens where you have a guy that really covers up for you, so to speak. Yeah. So that should happen. The lines today were behind us are sort of mixed up because Lawton wasn't here, presumably getting ready to be a dad.
Yes, due date on Wednesday.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. Who gets moved up, who gets moved down, and what they have. And it was really interesting in the home opener, the way those lines were programmed before the game.
Yeah, for example, we saw Ryan Paling as the center on the second line, so he gets moved up after we saw Lawton there on that second line. And you don't know, of course, when the Lawtons are going to have this baby this week, hopefully. So he could be missing a couple games this week, and they're going to have to figure it out how to do all this.
Yeah, and plus, we watched Hathaway, who ran into the boards heavy here at practice. So I'm presuming he's a tough guy, presuming that he's going to be okay. But anytime you see somebody bang into the boards like that, like a sonic boom when he hit. It really went in. But he went off. He was fine. He looked like he was, I don't want to say fine, he was bent over. He really went hard into the boards. But, tough guy. We'll see what happens when he comes back. But anyway, Torts is already kind of mangled. That's probably a bad way to put it, but he's kind of mixed up the lines.
Put it in a blender.
And put it all in a blender there. There's some real surprises. It's going to be interesting just to see how they handle this coming in to each game, what they're going to do. And at the beginning of the year, Ashlyn, it's like you obviously win the game is the idea, but long term, what's going to happen? Who are you going to get a look at? Yeah.
Well, they have to figure out what they have in Fedotov. So I get that sense of why you throw him out there, because if you have these questions still in a couple of weeks, that's one thing, but they got to figure out what this guy is. And I think then that's the case, then you got to get him the reps.
Yeah, I'm curious to see, what exactly how they do this, which way they're going to go, and how much leeway you
Yeah.
give each guy on what's going to go and who's going to play where.
Especially when Sam Harrison's telling us in interviews that he wants to play every single game.
Yeah, I would play him every day myself.
Me too. But that's why we don't have these jobs.
Yeah.
And of course, Matvey Michkov, we had the chance to talk to him as well in practice with the translator, of course. And everyone was talking about Ovechkin and how he gets the chance to meet him this week, how it's a really big deal for him. And you got to think for someone like Michkov, what a whirlwind this has been the past couple of weeks to now full circle get to meet someone like Ovechkin in this sense.
Yeah, you got to think, growing up, seeing a guy like that. I remember so many Russian players come over in Ovechkin. I think it was Svechnikov decided to drop gloves on him, and Alex just took him down in like game one. I'm hoping that's not in the game plan here. But I think you kind of want to show off a little bit.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be the next. We talk about the next. Everybody's talking about the next Gretzky, the next this, the next that. Suppose if you're a Russian player, I'd like to be the next big name in Russia.
And Michkov definitely has the potential to do so in a couple of years. And as a whole, I think the home opener was disappointing because one, people wanted to see Michkov score, but they also wanted to see more of Jet Luchanko. We're getting so many questions of what is this guy? Oh my gosh, he's so young. How is this happening? He's not getting the playing time that I think we expected.
Yeah, I'm confused by it. I guess I want to take a look. It doesn't cost you anything in terms of future contracts, whatever. You can take a longer look. And I suspected when he didn't play a game on the road trip, maybe they just want to stretch this out a little bit. But if it's obvious that he's not going to stay, I'm wondering, and coach continues to say he likes what he's seen in certain situations. I'm wondering if it's worth stretching it out to the full nine. Not that he wouldn't be able to produce something, but I just wonder if your lineup, I'm hoping Delorier gets back in the lineup, how this affects other people moving up and down in lines. I'm wondering if it doesn't kind of throw a curve at that whole situation with him here. Now, if he shows a lot, to me, it was like you have to be overly impressive to earn that long-term stay. So we'll see what happens with it. But I do know Tortorella goes out of his way to point out, even when we think he didn't play that many minutes, that he did some really good things. Yeah. And it looks like, it's funny, he's got the defensive end pretty much down. We've seen this with other players too. I think some more development time with his offensive skills, which obviously they could really use here.
They really could. We've barely seen any of Noah Cates as well. That's a guy that's definitely fighting for some time to get back in the lineup. And I think the biggest talking point Saturday for all of us, to the point where we didn't believe it at first when we saw the lines in morning skate, was Sean Couturier playing left wing in his 800th career game in the home opener. We're like, what is going on? And Al, you're juggling them. They might play defense in the locker room because you can't rule it out. You never know.
Yeah, I was went up and asked him, and he kind of joked about it. I said, well, you're going to play left wing, sir? And he goes, we'll see. Maybe I'll play defense. So,
You'll be in net.
Yeah, so at least, his attitude is, okay, we'll see. But he mentioned that he'd done it before with Claude Giroux here, but I don't it was like during a game.
They switched on
face-off situations on one side of the ice.
And the game.
Yeah, and what I really found curious was after this practice here that Torts mentioned he really liked him at left wing at certain situations, which is good, I guess, when you like that situation. Now, mind you, Lawton might not be here, so I think that kind of
solves the issue.
See what happens when whatever happens one way or the other. But the way they play, the winger has a little more responsibility. So you can look at it good that way. And to have two guys on the ice with responsibilities and face-off situations. But I think most people, including Coots, would rather have him as a centerman.
Right, and I think it speaks volumes to him that he is just the team player that's going to go out there. But I think a lot of people were upset because they felt like first 800 career game, why are you making this switch? I don't think Torts thinks like that.
No, nothing. Yeah. No, just that lineup for that night, that game, what's going to work. And he mentioned, a certain matchup that he might have wanted a certain way. And, as the game went on, he took face-offs anyway later in the game. You can always do that. But I guess it's a mix and match early season anyway. And we'll see if Delorier works his way. And I think with the Washington matchup, I would think you get a look at this line.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to need him for this game because if you go back to last season, of course, we know with the Capitals, that way the Flyers season ended where the Caps got the playoff spot. The Flyers did in a disappointing fashion. So we see this team really early on this season in a back-to-back situation, but the Caps are rolling right now. They just won an overtime over the weekend. They've got some momentum, and as a whole, this has become a really good matchup between these two teams in the last couple of years.
It has, and physical. So that's where I think you're going to see Duo. I think. I'm not the coach or the general manager, whatever. I would hope that would be in the cards.
Yeah, that's the hope, and we'll see what happens here in a back-to-back situation. Thanks for tuning in to South Philly Sauce, an Audacy original, brought to you by 94 WIP and Jack Daniels. We'll see you later on this week.